Here we are, another video where I explain how busy we are. Hey everyone, my name is Brendan. I'm one of the co-owners of the Rustic Tub here. If you're brand new to the channel, that's great for introductions. If you keep on coming back, hello again. Thank you for keep coming back. And for today's video, we're jumping right on into it because 'tis the season. We're making soap. If you've watched our channel before, you know that I always go into a little bit of a monologue before we actually start making stuff. So I'll post our timestamp down below of when we actually get started making stuff. And if you're here for my little one-on-one solo monologue to you, then have a seat and we are going to get started with going into everything before we go into everything. So full disclaimer, as we go into the next couple seasons, if you're watching this video when it first comes out, you know, as a soaper, bath and body care person, we are gearing up for our most busiest time of the year. And that's obviously our fall and our holiday time, which is also funny and weird because we've had a really good summer here that we never expected. But we know that within the next couple months until we hit December, we are gonna be floored with everything going on. Going into today's video, we are doing one of our standard soaps. We're amping it up a little bit just because with the fall season going into winter, especially on the eastern side of Canada, it will tend to be really, really dry. So this is the time of year where everyone wants something super moisturizing. Now, our soap is super moisturizing on its own, but we can always add more to keep it going. So we are doing a seasonal one today, and we are doing it with our Autumn Jam from Fizz Fairy because I've said it in my last sugar scrub video. I am obsessed with this scent like no tomorrow. And then soap-wise, with markets as well, it has probably been one of our most popular seasonal soaps that we have had to date. I was convinced that it was going to be another scent, but no, this one is the one that's taking it all by storm right now. So you're going to be coming along with me today as I get another batch ready. I did a tester beforehand. I have to amp it up, so we are going to be using our longer mold today to fill that one. And it should be a pretty straightforward one from here on out. So we're going to go ahead and dive into what we are using today. Okay, to start us off, we are using distilled water because we use the sodium hydroxide cold processed version. That is what we are going with. We have our shea butter ready to go right here, wrapped up in its little package. Shea butter is great for moisturizing the skin, having it stay moisturized, longer lasting. We have cocoa butter, which is going to be a new one for what we're doing for our seasonal soaps. And cocoa butter, once again, is just going to bring in that moisture to the skin. You're going to hear me say a lot of moisturizing right now, and that is what we are going for with this bar of soap. Not only that, cocoa butter is really good because when it does cool down, it actually makes the soap a little bit harder, so it'll be longer lasting. We have stearic acid as well. That's going to help harden the bar. It's also a nice little protein to add to the skin. Your skin will thank you for that one. We have our castor oil. I had to make sure that I was pointing to the right one because they're almost the same color from my angle. We have our castor oil. Castor oil is really good because it will just naturally draw in the moisture around. And that's what you need for your skin. Your skin is trying to lock that in. And if it stays dry, you're going to start aging yourself a lot faster. We also have our avocado oil. If you've seen these videos, you know exactly what's going to come out of my mouth. Avocado oil is our staple oil in everything that we make for this little brand. We are also using our canola oil. I have about one batch left here before we start switching it up a little bit. Now that prices are starting to even out, canola oil was a great substitute for olive oil, but we are probably going to start doing a half and half mix because olive oil is still expensive. Canola oil is great. It gives you about a 1 year shelf life for your soap anyway, and it is a lighter oil to put on the skin. It's not going to feel heavy or just grungy altogether. You don't want to have that sticky feeling if you wash yourself with soap, and canola oil is great for that. Perfect substitute for the olive oil. We have our safety gear, goggles, mask, because we are working with sodium hydroxide, the fancier word of lye, essentially. And there are a lot of people out there who, I always say it on every video, they always tell me to Get up, be protected. And that's because in the film industry, when we had to go somewhere, we had to go somewhere and we didn't have time for safety. So the fact that we're thinking about safety now, I always thank my YouTube viewers for throwing it out there. And it has now definitely become a habit. Finally, what you're not seeing right now is our coconut oil, and that's just because we bought a giant 18-pound one, and I don't have the means to lift it up right now. I am not feeling very strong today, so she is ready to go right down there, and that'll be a whole other process. But for the process right now, you know what we're going to do. We're going to get gloved up, we're going to get safetied up, and we're going to start the process. Okay, for this process today, we are starting from start to finish. I'm not having my lye water off to the side ready to go. We are starting right from scratch to get it going. Now, one thing I will say, if you are an avid soap maker, you've been doing it for a while, or whether you're just starting out and beginning, you will find comfort in any of the tools that you will use. So I use these random leftover buckets that I got from Voyager because I know how to work with them. I started out with them so I properly feel the pour. I will start to move on to the proper stuff. I'm just personally not ready for that commitment yet. I love my buckets for some reason. And then I will say as well, if you are starting out as a soaper and you're looking for guidelines and what you can expect, I'm going to say something that I never thought that I would say before. And back in film, in the makeup and hair department, we always had a term that was called "you hurry up and wait." And that is exactly what we're doing for soap. With soap, you have to move fast, but you also have to be super patient as well. So we always let our soap cure for about 4 weeks' time. All right, my microphone just died, so this part of the video might sound really fun. I'm gonna go ahead when we have to wait and charge it all up. So I might sound very, very echoey right now. So I'm geared up. I'm just gonna go ahead and pour our distilled water, get it going. And for this portion, you don't have to be dressed up in this. I'm just doing it for the safety portion. Just because I know once we start adding the lye, this is going to move really, really fast. Okay, for the lye now, we're just going to go ahead, throw it on up. If I'm yelling and it's coming off, I'm yelling, I'm so sorry. I'm a mess without the microphone. Okay, once you have your proper measurements, you can probably see I'm fogging up. That's going to go great. Go ahead, stir it. It will become next to boiling temperature. That is normal. This is what happens with the water activation. And once you feel like everything is fully dissolved, you're literally just going to leave it off to the side to set up and wait until it gets to a proper temperature. So I always wait for it to get to about 100 degrees. And then with that, I'll just leave it off to the side and I will see when it's cooled down and when this is defogged. All right, so I may have left it for maybe 2 to 3 hours. Normally an hour is fine and you can check the temperature. 2 to 3 hours, it's still working. It's totally fine. Lye water is lye water in this case and scenario. I think there's even people out there who have lye water pots that just leave it on and they just keep adding to it, which bravo, I don't have the attention span to do that kind of stuff. Moving right on into it though, we are going to be measuring out our butters and our hard oils. We're just going to get everything going. Normally I always have the camera facing downward at this portion. I feel like you've all seen that angle enough. This also will just help me in case I forget anything to just throw it right at the camera as I'm talking so I don't have to over accentuate my hands when I'm explaining stuff. All right, so our first little addition is going to be our cocoa butter. And when you're working with cocoa butter and you're working with anything new, always redo your soap recipe. Like, if you think you have it down packed, that's awesome. That works with one recipe. If you always want to throw something into it, adding another addition to it, always go back to soap calc. Soap calc is essentially every soaper's best friend, and it'll also help tell you what you need to add into the mix to really make it be that proper bar of soap. So at the bottom of soap calc, there is a nice little an ingredient bar. It's not really an ingredient bar. It's a telltale bar, essentially. So it'll be like your hardness, your iodine levels, everything along that. And you really want it to be between those numbers. So soap calc will definitely help with every situation with that. All right, our next one is going to be our shea butter. This is a standard staple in everything that we make as well. Well, soap-wise, it's a standard staple. Sometimes we swap it out with our avocado butter. And then I know down the road, I definitely want to play with a lot more butters. I'm already thinking of one for next year's soap. I don't want to do it now because it doesn't really seem like a proper time to do it, but more details, I guess, next year when we do that one, or whatever time you're watching it and the video just pops up next. All right, shea butter, good to go. I'm going to go ahead and reset my scale because sometimes numbers and my brain don't mix up nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and add in our coconut oil. Okay, so this is going to look so weird now that you're seeing it from a different angle. So I scoop out our coconut oil with a little metal bowl. Just because sometimes when it's overly hot and soupy, it's just easier to grab. When it's nice and hard, I can scrape it. Today, it's a nice, really thick porridge material, which even better for me, I can just grab a lot more with this than a measuring spoon, a measuring cup. This is my go-to. You can laugh and judge all you want, but for me, like I love this thing. I suppose everyone will also have their own way to do it too. So if you have like a fun little or weird little niche that you do with it, always love to hear about it. And with this good to go now, we have our oils and our butters, our hard oils and butters in there. Go ahead, throw it onto our boiler, which turns into that system of hurry up and wait. So fun fact of the day, I always am supposed to add my stearic acid to the melting hard butters and oils down there. It's as simple as literally adding 2 to 3 of these little half tablespoons, so I guess a tablespoon and a half. This just helps harden the bar of soap, make it last longer, especially when you're using a lot of a softer butter like a mango butter, avocado butter. You really want something that's going to help with the hardness. I just like it because it helps kicks it faster. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead, add that now, and then we'll move on to this portion. Okay, going on to our proper liquids now. I'm gonna try to go on this side so I'm not blocking out the mic on this one. This is our standard one that we do all the time. This measurement will always stay the same for us. So if you follow along on the Patreon for the recipe, you can already know what this is. I've done this so many times, I know this recipe off by heart. However, when it comes to math skills, that's a different story. So you always have to hit the reset button because, like I said, sometimes you can have really good days counting numbers, and some days you can have a real problem with it. So I'm just going ahead, finishing out our avocado oil. Good to go. Okay, now for the really fun part, what's left of our canola oil? Oh, hit the reset button for math skills. Okay. Probably going to use the rest of what's in here. I know there's not a lot left, but I do know that there is enough left for us to get one batch out of this. Ooh, couple more. Come on, doing good. Nice. That literally just finished us out where we needed to be. And because we are still waiting for everything to fully melt down over in our nice little boiler system here, we can still move on, and we're going to go ahead and do our fragrance oils, which, as I said before, is going to be Autumn Gem from Fizz. By this time, I've said it so many times just how much I love them as a company. Not only them, but like we're also true fans of Voyager, Brambleberry, Marouge Canada. And yeah, we literally cannot get enough of that. If you know any other places and you feel like throwing it down at us, being like, hey, check out this place for fragrances, we're always open to that. Absolutely. I just feel like I'm a really old person now by saying that, like, I like sticking with my favorite ones. But I know, like, there's so many more out there. These ones are just the ones that I've fallen in love with as of right now. Okay, fragrances are there. Since we're still waiting for it to melt down, I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to get everything laid out. So our soap mold, our mica powders for coloring. I'm going to get the blender out and put together if I can find the other half of it. And shouldn't be shortly. So we'll see you very, very soon. For this part forward, now that everything is melted down, you've always seen it from the really fun angle, from straight down. We're doing things differently this time until we get into our little decoration mode. Our hard oils are now fully liquid, so you're going to see from this angle that we're going to mix up everything. And because we are working with the lye water again, these babies are on for your protection. Not for the customers. This is for you. A lot of people out there have always gone off and said, protect your eyes. You're completely right. I'm starting to listen. And literally, we're just pouring our liquid oils into the hard melted ones. We're going to scrape it out because every little drop counts for this. Okay, for the lye portion, I always like to double mix the bucket just to see what we're dealing with. There has been a couple times where I personally have added the bucket in thinking everything's good, and then I realized that the lye actually settled at the bottom and it turned into this wonderful lye disc. And I've had to reset soap a good chunk of times. I think probably 3 in the history of doing this. I've had to just rebatch the whole thing because there wasn't enough lye for it to set up. And just go ahead, add that to the mix. All right, and you can probably kind of see from this angle, it's pretty full. So when I get into the mixing portion, I really concentrate and become dead to the world. This baby's coming pretty loose, so we will need an update very, very shortly. But we're just going to go ahead, get our mixer going, and get it ready. Okay, that's all looking nice and even. And from this portion on, I just go ahead and I split it 3 ways as evenly to the eye, to my eye, I should say. Just because we're going to get into the portion of coloring now. And this is a soap that's really, really fun to create. And I know this setup right here looks a little bit odd, but I did it the first time and the soap came out beautiful. So I'm hoping for this round, we can just recreate that beauty. All right, now that I have the 3 portions all scooped out, ready to go, I leave 1 portion blank just because I like the natural color that it came out with. And then the other 2 are going to get their micas. I put in micas at this portion of the game just because I always wait until my fragrance to go in after because I never know how fragrance is going to react. And there has been sometimes where the fragrance reacted very, very quickly. Like our bergamot first soap sets up within 2 minutes. And that's a fear. All right. And because it's a fall soap, I don't want it to be super, super bright. So we do go ahead and we add some darkness to it. And once again, we just mix it all up. So from here on out, I'm just going to go ahead, mix them up, and then we will switch the camera angle down so we can see just kind of what we're playing with our pour area. And because the flavor is autumn jam, I like the colors to be dark. That was a very bad showcase, but I know if I go any forward more than that, it'll all come spilling out. So you'll see in the pour, I'm going to let these off to the side. I'll get this set up, and then we'll add our fragrance, and we'll do the pour. Okay, so diving right on into this magical experience. I did this last time to it, and like I said, I loved how the bar of soap came out, so I'm hoping to recreate that with the bigger one because I just did the tester ones at first. So because this fragrance does have vanilla in it, I'm not going to add it to my bucket of natural colored one because I don't want that to go brown. I want that to remain as clear as possible. So I'm literally just going to go ahead, add half the fragrance slowly into that one and get it going. And like I said, everyone is always different. I add the fragrances right before I pour, and that's just for my sake of anxiety because I'm always afraid of things setting up a little too quickly. And then let's see how good my pour is today. So sum up for this portion, I will add in a little squirt of 99, and that's just to help let the surface tension kind of tense up on that. Because for this next moment, I want to add this to the soap, but I don't want it to fully kind of dive right into it. It will sink into it a bit, which is fine, but I just don't want that uh, full splash. So when you do your swirls, you get like the dip in from the high pour. I don't want none of that just yet. And then I'll do nice little spritz as well. And like I said, I will swirl. There was just a method to the madness for it. Now, full-blown confession time. We follow a soaper named Ashley Marie Soaps. She is an absolute artwork when it comes to her soaps and what she does. And watching her is so beautiful, watching her make soaps, but it is so anxiety inducing because she makes these massive batches for her store. And I don't know if I will get to that point one day where I'm making batches to the size of that. I hope I do. But it is such a beautiful anxiety attack watching her work with her soap. Okay, so because it's somewhat full, I'm just going to go ahead, lift it on up, and then I will pour in the rest. Get it all going as best as I can from this different angle. All right, so with our soap slowly setting up, hitting that gel phase, which is what we want, we're going to go ahead, let it hit the full gel phase, and then we're going to wrap it. If you don't wrap your soap, you leave it out in the open, you could end up with very heavy soda ash on top. Or you can have it where the rest of your soap doesn't fully gel with it. So when you demold it 24 hours later, there's some parts that are still, and I'll use the word sludgy, and that's what we don't want. So when this baby sets up, we're going to go ahead, wrap it, incubate it, and then we will see you for the demolding process and the cutting process. And we are back. It hasn't been about 24 hours. It's probably been about, I would say, definitely over 12, 16 maybe. I left it overnight, got excited this morning. That's how long it's been. So I've said it once, I'll say it again. I say it so many times. We use our Winston and Walter molds like no tomorrow when it comes to soap making because it's probably the easiest one for us to demold with. I'm an impatient person. This stuff pops off. And most of the time, it comes out so beautifully. So those are the ends of our soap there. And we're going to go ahead and cut it up now. I will move the camera for this one just because that is the more fun one to look at from that angle. Okay, here we go. Now that we are 1 to 2 bars in, you can really see now when we pull this off the swirling actions from it. So you can just kind of see how it all raises up, goes in between each little one, and how the colors are just so contrasted from the dark purple to the natural to the red. And because, like I said, there is a vanilla content in it, it will get darker and it will get a little bit more browner over time. That's just going to be what happens. But this is exactly where we want it to be right now because it will darken up as it cures longer. And then as well, if you're seeing from the light little specks like this one, or if you can see that at all like that, those are just air bubbles. So when you're swirling or you're pouring in your oils at the time to get them in there, to get everything all set up, there are little air bubbles that can trap inside. That is totally normal. However, if they are tiny white little dots, they could just be heavy in little bits of lye. But these ones are just air bubbles. So this one is definitely a very common thing that you'll see in soap. If you want less air bubbles, you can always pour at a more liquid state of your soap and then just kind of knock the sides to get everything out, let the air bubbles rise, work that way. But if you're impartial to them looking like there's little air bubbles in there, it's totally, totally fine and normal for your soap to have. Okay, now that we are onto our last bar, we'll go ahead, kind of round it out, literally have like a little sliver of the soap left. That'll just be for self-use because I love this one so much. And everyone is cut from there. Okay, so as you can see, we are done cutting. The bars of soap are ready for the next portion. I'm just gonna go ahead and zoom in on one bar of soap. So what you are seeing there is all of the little air bubbles just sitting on top when you cut it. They do eventually fade and go away from the side. It's just because I was so excited to get the soap out that I pulled the liner off, so it's not going to be super, super smooth. But from this portion on, 22 to 23 bars of soap, our next step is to stamp it. So I'm going to go ahead, wait about an hour or two, and then stamp, and I'll go over that more when we get to that. All right, so we did take our little tester bar of soap and we did emboss our little bathtub logo on it. And yeah, that one is just always nice to have around, especially when you're stamping soap. And then I went ahead and I did it on one of our other tester bars that we would send out. This one is one of our back pieces for it. So you can see that the swirl's not there, and then we have a little bit of a hardened butter right there. That is sometimes normal, never a fun situation, but we always do that one as well. We go ahead, clean up the bottoms as well. This baby's ready for stamping, so we're gonna go ahead and do that. And I will say, normally for stamping, you do want to wait about 24 hours minimum for it to get the best results of your stamp. I sometimes wait 1 to 2 hours, and that's just my patience ability. I have no patience when it comes to it. I get so excited when it comes to soaping, cutting, the design process of it that I'm too excited to wait. And with that out of the way, this lovely little autumn soap is now officially done, completed with stamp and everything. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to photograph these babies, get them all done up for our social media. But that is it for this week's video. So thank you so much for joining along with us as we do one of our seasonal soaps. Standard recipe, a little bit different. So the altered version for this seasonal soap, and it will go forward with all of our other seasonal soaps. That recipe will be available on Patreon. So if you want to show your love and support and get some behind the scenes little tips and recipes and how to, you can go ahead on over there and follow us. To finish out though, please remember to like, subscribe, ring that bell for notifications. I still think that's a thing here. And if you want to check us out on our other social media platforms where we do our best to keep up, we're always there. We're always thankful. And until next week, have fun with this one. Have fun with your experiments. And we will see you soon, everyone. Bye.